Welcome students, alumni, staff, faculty, and anyone else out there who might be tuning in. I'm Newman, Dean of IE Business School. And I have the pleasure today to welcome Bernhard Niesner, co-founder and CEO of Busuu, who is joining us to have a conversation about his entrepreneurial journey, perhaps the concept of business with purpose, and maybe a game-changing moment that he's had personally as a professional in his career. Now, just quickly to plug Bernhard a little bit, we are quite proud of you, Bernhard. Thank you for joining us. Why? Well, for many reasons, but because he's an alumnus of the International MBA at IE. You graduated in 2007. And I think Bernhard, for us, shows us what a great business education mixed with a whole lot of hard work and sweat and persistence and grit can accomplish. So congratulations for that. During Bernhard's MBA, he met the co-founder of Busuu, Adrian Hilti, and these guys launched the company just a year after graduation, 2008. And I think it's an incredible story. We'll hear a little bit about it now. I would say, from what I've heard, it's an entrepreneurial roller coaster with many ups and downs, which we'll get into in a minute. But if we fast forward from the founding to now, basically here we are, and the company's been bought for $436 million by Chegg, which is a New York Stock Exchange listed student media platform. So wow, congratulations, and welcome, Bernhard.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be here.
So for the people in our audience tuning in today who might not know what your company does, could you give us just an overview of what does the company do, and what was the problem that you were trying to solve when you started?
Yeah, so with Busuu, we have the purpose to empower people through languages. We know, and I guess many of us can relate to that a lot of people have dreams that they actually can only unlock if they speak other languages. Like in my case, I moved to Latin America. I had to learn Spanish and Portuguese. Then I also moved to Madrid to do the MBA, and equally, obviously, had to improve my Spanish. And so many people, learn languages, let it be for career purposes, for traveling, to connect with families, or just for cultural interest. And they have this dream, and therefore they need to learn languages. And we as Busuu, we think the best way to learn a language is to provide the best balance between learning and practicing. So we have our own courses developed by our in-house language learning experts in 13 different languages, powered by AI. So it's like a smart course. And then we allow our users to practice their skills directly with our native speaking community, so there are other users out there, and with thousands of teachers that we have on the platform as well. And over the years, we have scaled to over 120 million users in total who have registered with our platform. And also we provide it to large companies like the likes of Inditex or Puma or Adidas, who equally use Busuu to train their employees.
And so that's what you do. And then there's been this journey of many years, right, to build this company. Unless you work miracles, I assume that there's been some bumps in the road on that journey, as there are with any entrepreneur, and you've had your fair share. Could you share with us what was a really, really tough moment that you had in the trajectory of the company?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have been in the trenches for 14 years, and I can tell you that definitely being an entrepreneur requires to overcome a lot of these challenges. And one challenge for us was that, in fact, we actually launched a little bit too early. We were one of the pioneers in the year 2008. When we launched Busuu, we developed the concept in 2007 when, as mentioned, I met my co-founder Adrian during the MBA, and we thought that there's nothing out there to learn languages online, so we came up with this idea and launched after the graduation. But at that point, if you remember, the app stores hadn't launched yet. So the iPhone was out there, but just the app stores and the whole app ecosystem hadn't been out there yet. So we built the entire business as a desktop business because there was no other alternative. But then soon after, we realized that mobile is going to be a very important platform for us, because then you have your language trainer just directly in your pocket. But already we had been building the platform for a couple of years. And as soon as we realized we had to change to a mobile first strategy, it also implied that we had to completely rebuild the entire business, because our entire backend, the content, the way we had designed it was made for large screens, not for small screens, payment methods, and so on. So it required quite a big replatforming and technological change that in fact took us at the end 2 years. In that moment, I also learned the hard lesson of technical debts, that you have to pay it back. And therefore it took us 2 years to really get out of that. And during that time, our revenues were not growing. We had other competitors who then launched with a mobile first approach. And we were probably a bit naive also to scale too fast, and had therefore to scale back as we were running out of money. And you know, I think we were lucky to push through these dark moments, but it was a difficult time. And luckily we got a second roll of the dice. And equally, after a near crash, 6 months later, we were able to raise 6 million euros from McGraw-Hill Education, which again confirms that there's a very thin line in entrepreneurship between success and failure. A company that nearly went bust and could actually raise money a couple of months afterwards, and we were able to scale and accelerate again.
So you were early entrants, if not one of the first entrant, and then you found yourself in that move to mobile, a follower actually.
Absolutely.
That had to have been frustrating.
It was quite frustrating, because obviously we already had built, let's say, a community, and we know what we were doing on desktop, but it required a complete strategic change and a complete reset of the business. But equally, many companies actually never really survived the shift from desktop to mobile. So we were pushing through it. But yeah, we had to scale back from 50 to 10 employees. And had to restructure. So 50, it was a tough 55 exactly. Yeah. So it was a tough moment. But luckily we managed to come through these challenges.
I'm curious, because I think one of the hallmarks of great entrepreneurs is the ability to inspire a team of people to share that passion, that energy that you have that we have as entrepreneurs. I spent 8 years doing it myself at the beginning of the internet. And I mean, I'm just imagining, I'm putting myself in your shoes at the time. So, here you are, oh my gosh, we have to change from, the platform to mobile. And you let a whole bunch of people go. I mean, how did you continue to inspire the team going forward? And that had to have been a tough moment for them as well, from a motivation standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's at the end of the day, persistency is one of the core skills that you really require as an entrepreneur. And one book that I strongly recommend to other entrepreneurs is also The Hard Things About Hard Things from Ben Horowitz. It was the book that I was reading actually at that time. And there is a key phrase that I always remind myself when things get tough, that you really have to embrace the struggle as an entrepreneur. You shouldn't be discouraged by difficulties, because if you are, you're probably not going to enjoy the journey. So it's all about yourself, really making sure that you accept that this is a difficult journey, and therefore you're going to go through these challenges, I think, with a much more positive attitude, which is the other element. I also, when I do investments myself, I look for entrepreneurs, a lot of positivity. And the third element I actually also look for is passion, which I personally have a lot for the educational industries. I think with perseverance, with positivity, and with passion, you're able to motivate yourself. And if you're able to do that, then I think you can also then motivate other team members and say, look, this is going to be tough. This is going to be a difficult time where we have to go through. But just trust me that at the end of the day, there's going to be the sun shining on the other side of this hill. And then you hopefully have the team trusting you and going through these difficulties together. And that is what happened in our case. And we achieved quite a strong turnaround.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a message there that, I mean, we have a lot of, as you know, we have a lot of people at IE Business School that consider going into startups and doing one themselves. And there really ought to just be a giant neon sign at the entrance to the airplane that just says, if you're going to get on this plane, expect turbulence.
Exactly. Yes. And if you don't like turbulence, then don't get on this plane because
then walking, biking, jogging is probably a better way to get there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So wow. So thanks for sharing that. I'm wondering now. So we talk about it at the business school now. We talk about this idea that education really needs to be an experience in which we don't just learn facts and skills, but it's got to be about transforming ourselves as people. And I like to talk about this idea of, from our standpoint, of game-changing moments. That we really want to create, let's say, the conditions in an MBA or in any of our programs where people can have game-changing moments, because they don't happen that often in life, right? And they're kind of like gold. And so we're trying to create them. But I'm wondering, so you went through, you gave us one hint at some of the difficulties that you've had, but in this journey that you've had, can you think of a kind of a game-changing moment where you got some feedback or situation happened where it led you to change an attitude, a mindset, a behavior, some set of assumptions that you had that you could look back to and say, yeah, I made a transformation that was a game-changing moment for me?
Yeah, I think there's probably two I can think of. I mean, one being, again, related to this near-death experience that we had, where we were unfortunately also scaling too fast without really, I think, accepting the importance of building the business on strong cultural foundations. We were just hiring people and we're onboarding them fast. But in these difficult moments when you have to do a replatforming, a change of strategy, you need a lot of alignment. And I think that only comes if the values of the people that work in the organization are equally aligned. And once we had to scale back and I had the opportunity to rebuild the company again, I swore to myself that now I have to build them on strong cultural foundations. So we set the values of Busuu. It's the teach values, it's trust, effectiveness, ambition, curiosity, and happiness. It's values that, really close to ourselves. It's not just a poster in the kitchen, but we have operationalized them because actually values should drive behaviors. So we have defined specific behaviors that, people should adhere to. And we have operationalize these values and behaviors across the entire life cycle of the employees. So from the interview questions to the onboarding experience to probation pass, performance review, and so on. So it's really all, I think, ingrained in the day to day because there's a saying, culture is what people do when no one is looking. And you don't want to be looking over people. People should be, just taking the right decisions based on the values and the behaviors that really work for this organization. And that is a key learning where I think I changed my attitude and that helped me to build a better business. And in line, I think it goes with that at the beginning of an entrepreneurial journey, obviously you have to do everything from buying the kitchen supplies to hiring your next CTO to raising a fundraise. But then, as long as the organization, as soon as the organization scales, it's really important to trust people. It's really important to hand over and to make sure you hire these people for a reason. They're experts in their field. So you need to really step back and leverage them and make sure that they can actually rise to the challenge and then be much better than you in the various specific areas. And I think that was for me a transformational journey as well. At the beginning, I was very close, but now I have the experts to take the right decisions. So let them do it themselves.
So really, I guess what I take from that is, culture is a very organic thing in a way, right? Isn't it? Like culture in an organization, and it sort of, people talk about it as kind of, you put it in place and it kind of grows on its own. But I think what I hear you saying is that, maybe it's a little bit more like chemistry, where yes, you're putting people in different, you're putting people into the mixture, but there actually needs to be some thought and some care in catalyzing things in certain ways and creating the conditions that you want in which you're going to grow that culture.
Absolutely. This is very thoughtful. This is I think an approach which makes it very clear what type of talent should we attract and what type of talent probably is not going to be happy in the environment where we strive. And if you're quite articulate about that and open about this, even at the start of an interview process, then hopefully you're also going to attract people who can strive in the type of environment that the company is all about. And I think yeah, I think we designed a culture for us where we can be successful, and hence we want to find people who will equally feel very comfortable in this type of environment.
And I'm curious, did you and Adrian, did you guys explicitly sit down and say, okay, these are the cultural dimensions we're after, and this is how, we're going to recruit for them and do them? Or was it more of just you guys, you each have your own culture, and it just kind of permeated and was more of an implicit thing?
Yeah, no, I think it was quite something that, Adrian transitioned out of the business after a couple of years. So it was also something that basically myself, together maybe with the board, where Adrian was also part of it, designed. But I think it really needs them to be working for the founder, in that case, myself, where I can feel comfortable with it as well. Because if these values don't really work for myself, if I'm not comfortable, then I don't think it's going to work for others. So this was really something where I said to myself, what is this type of environment where I can strive, where I feel really energized and empowered to come into the office and to give the best that I can do. And those are then the values as a starting point where I would like to attract other people to join me in this journey. Over the years, you obviously have to adjust, because whatever works for 10 people doesn't work for 50 people and doesn't work for 200 people. So you need to adjust this then over time. But at the beginning, it was very much values that were very close to my heart as well.
You mentioned the word values, which is a word we hear a lot these days. And then usually in the same sentence, we also hear the word purpose. And so one of the things that we're doing at the business school is really making business with what we call business with purpose a part of what our mission as an institution, as a school. And we really want all of our graduates to let's say, become part of a movement of a new generation of business professionals, really in the sense of a type of professional, business professional that carries with her or him a responsibility that maybe to the planet, to society, or to other people, or to, in some sense, think explicitly about how one is going to align career choices with one's own very individual and unique sense of purpose. So I'm wondering, you started a business in language learning and education. How did you see it? Did you think about purpose explicitly at the time? Was it just an interest that you had in a business opportunity you found doing a SWOT analysis or whatever it was, and there it was, and you went after it?
Well, actually, in our case, the original idea came from Adrian, and he was looking for a team, and we randomly met at the networking event where I sat next to him, and we started chatting. And I always loved learning languages. It actually was really something that enriched my life tremendously, and hence I was immediately energized and loved this idea. And we joined up and then started to do the business idea during the MBA. But then we again realized that for many people, learning a language is not just a hobby, it's the route to success, or it's the route to fulfilling their dreams. And for example, just recently, we opened up our premium membership to Ukrainian refugees. And within a couple of weeks, we had over 200,000 people signing up and learning, other languages of the countries where they had been displaced to. And we received so many messages of people thanking us about this opportunity. And again, I think it was a great reminder for us as a business that what we do, we allow people to be able to communicate with others, to be successful in their lives of the new country that they have been going to, and therefore that is automatically a business with a strong sense of purpose.
And I can see it from the way you described it, because your face sort of lit up and you got very energetic. That it's obvious that in many ways you chose to build your the stage of your career after your MBA on something you care about.
Yeah, I think it's as mentioned about the passion. I said, the entrepreneurial journey is tough. There are going to be so many moments in which you might throw in the towel, but then if there's really something you personally care about, and in my case, I also think there's nothing wrong with learning languages. If you work in gaming or dating or gambling, there's some online businesses where maybe it's not so great idea if you do it too often. Whereas with language learning, you can never do it enough. and equally it's a complex problem to be solved. Like it's not easy to teach languages online and really lead people to fluency, and we've made great advancement with the use of AI and the other technologies. So yeah, it's something I'm personally passionate about, and I think this is really important, and I can only recommend entrepreneurs to only go into projects where they just deeply care about, because then it will be easier to overcome the difficult moments.
So it made a big difference for you, and in those difficult times, there was sort of a ray of light, which was, I like what I'm doing.
I like what I'm doing. Exactly. It's tough, but I think also right now, the new generations, and we see this with people who apply, there is, as you have said, a lot of people really want to work for purpose-driven businesses. They just don't want to join the next company that is just about making money. This is about creating change. And that's the beauty of education, because we know that education changes people's lives. And therefore, we get a lot of fantastic talents who wants to join us, because they know as soon as they come and work with Busuu, they can really impact people's lives in a positive way.
Yeah, I guess every person is unique. Every person, has a unique idea of what is purposeful or meaningful to them, right? And so I think your message is to, for each person out there, especially our current students who are thinking about what they want to do next, or alumni who are thinking about moving, is to just think about it. Think about what is it that you're passionate about? What is it that excites you from the standpoint of meaning, and see if you can find some alignment with a career path. So thanks for that thought. Let me ask you one more question. So we've talked a little bit about people, and you did mention before a kind of a game-changing moment where you kind of had this shift from this kind of extreme focus on the business, and growing and scaling, and then with a scale back and this near-death moment, really thinking hard about culture and people. So, talent development is a tricky thing, and not everybody's good at it. It sounds like you've done a good job in building a culture and a sense of team. Any insights that you'd like to share in terms of your philosophy or your approach, or even just tactical things that you've done with respect to talent development from your company?
Yeah, it's a big topic for us, and I think also right now in a hybrid mode, coming kind of out of the COVID crisis, of how to re-engage with employees and making sure that they can become the best version of themselves, which is one of our key behaviors as well. We want people here at Busuu to have a transformational experience when they join the company. I always say I would be super disappointed if someone says Busuu is just another job. I think it should be really a journey where you give everything you have, and then you grow and you progress. And we have had people joining much larger technology businesses, or even founding their own businesses, and entrepreneurs and so on. But I think we as a company, we try to do as much as possible. We obviously invest in learning and development. And the one area we're currently focusing on is also on early manager training programs, because in a company like ours, where we grow fast, you suddenly become a manager relatively fast, and then you never had potentially a real training about it, how to do performance reviews and probation reviews, and equally become a coach for the team that you're now in charge of. So this is an area we're actually investing in. Obviously now with Czech being part of a listed company, they have a lot of experience in how to scale up their own teams, and so therefore there's something we're building on here as well.
Well, thank you for all these insights. It's hard to summarize a almost 14-year entrepreneurial journey in a short conversation or in a summary, but I think you've shared with us some great ideas. One is this idea that, look, it's all about grit and persistence and resilience. And for those out there thinking about starting a company, it's a great thing to do, but it's not necessarily for everyone. So put on the expect turbulence sign. If you're not willing to get on the plane, don't get on. And then you talked about a very difficult time, right? In those turbulence and things that you had to do. And thanks for sharing that, because I think sometimes we beat ourselves up when we have those moments. But what you said was that this is normal, and I think that's a great message. And then it seems to me that the fact that you chose to do something you care about, maybe somebody else for them, language learning, it wouldn't be something, it's interesting, but not passionate. For you, it was a passion, something you really cared about, you had done yourself. And it seems like one of the messages is that that's a fuel in your tank in the moments when the tank is running low.
Absolutely.
And you had those low moments. So, so that, I think that's a message. And then, it seems to me that you've expressed a concern for people, that you've tried to create an environment in which people can thrive, even to the extent of, like you said, you've had people that have left to go do other things, but you said that with a positive message, in the sense that you're proud that you built a person and their skills, and then they went off to do their own startup. Fantastic. So I think maybe that seems simple, but not every leader and manager always takes that time to care about the people, right? Absolutely. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's a war for talent, and so you need to make sure that you treat your people well, and make sure you invest in them, and they have a growth journey, and then hopefully they stay for a long time with your company. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today for this conversation. Thank you for really for being a great example of what our alumni can do. Many things that are inspirational for our community. Thanks for being a great alumnus. I mean, I know that you and I know each other from many of the things that you're doing. You're teaching at IE, you're doing many things with us. So thank you for those contributions, and best wishes in the next phase of the company.
No, thank you as well. And I mean, I can truly say that IE has changed my life, and I'm super grateful for the experience that I had. And I hope that many students and alumni are out there also building on the experience that they had at IE, and they make the best out of it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Bernhard.